right, we're on. Hey, Divyam, how are you?
Good. How are you, Mukund?
I'm doing excellent. Give us a little bit of background. I know you and I have known each other for some time. We follow
Yeah,
each other on Twitter, X, whatever that is now, LinkedIn, and all of that stuff. But just to set the stage, tell me a little bit more about, tell actually the listeners and the viewers more about you, your background, what have you done in marketing, and we'll go from there.
sure. I have, I think, more than a decade experience in marketing. I started my career from advertising, traditional advertising, a lot of print ads, lot of radio ads, and then gradually moved into digital. That's when we were explaining our clients why you should be on Facebook. So I come from that era. Then I got out of advertising, got into more corporate, got into brand marketing, and helped a client in India go from a physical newspaper to a digital website. you know um, Got them to around 5 million views per day, introduced a lot of new products on the website. Then I moved eventually to e-commerce. Basically, I was leading e-commerce for APAC region for a French brand called L'Occitane. It's a skincare brand. A lot of you probably
Yeah.
might, oh,
Well, my kids, I have three
Yeah.
girls and a son. We
Hmm.
have a L'Occitane fairly close by here in the Bellevue Square Mall. It's a high-end skincare brand overall, right? They do some makeup, but most of it is just skincare.
It's actually not a lot of makeup, but it's
Serums.
mostly serums, and the target audience is mostly people above 30 because that's who can afford that kind of creams, right? So $200 creams, a lot of teenagers cannot. But yeah, we were diversifying and getting into a younger audience as well, right? So that was based out of Singapore. Then I joined Deloitte. That was in India. I led digital for the South Asia region, for India, Bangladesh, Mauritius, region. Led digital marketing, digital campaigns, ABM strategy, all of that, and then moved to Canada 5 years back, and I've been with Deloitte ever since. And right now, I am with Deloitte, working within the growth organization, taking care of the digital experience of our firm.
That's awesome, man. That's a great story, actually. It's a very good story. So today we're going to talk more about digital from the standpoint of analytics, attribution, setting up the system. So let me start at the top, right? One of the things that is interesting to me is how marketing has just changed in the last 3 to 4 years, right? After the zero interest rate policy era, which was money was free. So people were spending a lot of money on the top of the funnel marketing to be able to move people along. But I don't think that's how you guys did it ever, right? Tell me a little bit more about you said you've done a lot of ABM work before. You focused a lot on attribution and analytics as well. Let's start with the ABM side. How has ABM changed in your mind? Or has it changed? Is it still relevant? How is ABM changing in your mind, if you will, from the last 3 to 5 years?
Well, like I said, it's an interesting question because I've seen that journey, from where nobody was digital and now everything is digital, and where hyper-personalization is a big play, first-party data is a big play. If I have to compare, what was happening 5 years back and what is happening right now, the biggest difference is data. There's been an explosion of data. Companies now have access to vast amount of customer data from multiple touch points. They're able to, you know, um, connect all of the data together so that they can actually gather insights that are actionable, right? This is the biggest change that has come in. And now, with the explosion of AI in the couple of, years, it has become even more so, real time. Real time analytics is pretty big thing right now in ABM, in decision making, and how do you want to spend your marketing dollars, right? Businesses no longer have to rely on month-old campaign data performance. With AI and predictive analytics, they can just adjust their GTM strategy in real time, optimizing for that work and discarding what doesn't, right? I mean, yes, it's iterative. Digital will always be iterative. Marketing will always be iterative, but it's more faster now. It's adaptable at a faster space. And then the aspect of AI and machine learning, which is fundamentally changing the game, right? It is helping us predict which prospects are most likely to convert. Certain tools will give you a score around that. There's personalized marketing at a scale that we have never seen. So things are moving fast, things have changed. I remember a time when we were doing our ABM. Um, there are various tools which we're not going to get into, but we would run a campaign looking at 500 different accounts that are the biggest accounts for us, and
Yeah,
then um, through a campaign tweak the campaign a bit for each of the our clients and eventually see what really worked. A lot of times we would try to explain our leadership that hey, this is what they worked, but it has changed a lot because after COVID, what happened is our leaders, the people at C levels,
yeah,
they understood the power of digital.
yeah,
Especially for a firm like, consulting firms as old as ours, a lot of time leaders would say, feel that, it's only relationship where I would go for a golf game or go for a coffee and then only
right,
I'll
right,
create.
right.
But this has changed the game, and that's why you'll see a lot of leaders now really active on LinkedIn. They understand the value of digital relationships now. So definitely things have changed, things are faster. How do you think, from your perspective, what are the other things that you think are, changing in this field?
Let's talk about ABM, which is what I said, right? It's a good question that you asked me. What I'm starting to see, number one, is a lot more people focus on the person or the buying group they want to market to, as opposed to only the account, right? Account-based marketing has become more who's the buying group, who's the CFO, who's the VP of databases or
Yeah,
VP of applications, VP of CRM, whoever it is, who that they are targeting to target, who's the procurement person if necessary, who's the legal person. So it becomes like 4 or 5 different, or maybe in some cases 10 different people that they have to market to. So any given account has multiple organizations. Within the organization, you have a buying group of like 20 people.
yeah,
So very quickly, that's become a big difference, person based. So one of the things we are seeing from, as I told you, right, when we were talking about it offline as well, you see me talking about this on LinkedIn, just like
yeah,
you mentioned. I'm also active on LinkedIn. I'm
yeah.
seeing a lot more people focus on person. Who's the person? What are they? What is their problem? How do we solve that? That's the first one. The second one I see that has changed with ABM is a lot of the platforms that are very expensive, 6 figure, 7 figure
Yeah,
platforms take a long time to implement. The ROI is difficult. It's not there. It's just very difficult to be able to justify on a 7 figure ROI on that 7 figures if you're not going to get it very soon, right? Even if you're planning 6 figure, let's say it's 200,000, $300,000. I mean, the usual marketing campaign, if it doesn't return 5x, 6x return on spend, people are getting very, very concerned, right?
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, the very simple thing is you put $1 in Facebook, you should get $5 to $6 in inbound
I know.
business.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're wasting your time. Same thing with a tool. In fact, a tool should give you 10x, right? So the second thing I'm seeing a lot is I don't want expensive all you can eat platforms. I want something to be deployed quickly, show quickly. The
Can I just
third
add?
thing, yeah, yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, can I just add into this is also, when you talk about platforms, what's also happening is that um, an average lifetime of a C-suite has also reduced, right? So, and especially in this environment, people do not want to look at solutions that are going to give them results in 3 years, 4 years. They are looking for, hey, what do I get in the next month, or what do I get in probably in the next 6 months, so that I can really, if you're public, show the kind of results we have
The impact.
driven, right? And that is also a big change. And I think the value of this is how things are going to change for a lot of companies like Salesforce, because you really want to see value immediately, and how do you derive that value is going to be a game changer at this point of time, especially in this geopolitical environment where people just want to see, hey, I'm investing $5, do I get $10 out of it or not?
Exactly. And I
Yeah,
think you're absolutely right. The third thing I was going to say that I'm seeing, I want to get your thoughts on this, which is, you mentioned very correctly, there's a ton of data. People want to be very data driven. Now, 2, 3 years ago, before before Chat GPT era, people would take all the data, they put it into a warehouse or something, then they have to hire a machine learning engineer, then they'll have to hire a BI analyst. And so that team became like 5, 6 people. Now, marketing teams, because of the way we are going in the last couple of years, they've started to reduce, right? So a lot of marketing teams are optimizing. They're saying we
Correct.
can't afford to have 50, 100, 200 people. We got to be able to make do with 20% less or 30% less. But that money that we save, we're putting it into program. We're not putting it into people. So another thing that I'm seeing is a lot of people just moving all that data into a simple data lake, Databricks or something like that, or data warehouse and saying, okay, now I'm going to take an LLM and I'm going to fine tune it on top of this data and not have to build an ML engineer, BI engineer, or something like that, right? That's another thing that I'm seeing a lot more people do, which is we want to get insights. That insights need to be activated into a campaign, but I'm not going to spend 7 engineers and 4 data scientists to get that insight and then deploy it and then get the value.
Yeah, I mean, it's a classic question around build versus buy, right? I mean, if I have to invest, um, five of my employees doing one thing that they will come up with in 1 year, as compared to buy something that is giving me immediate results, is where it's a lot faster, right? I mean, marketing teams do not have the liberty of time anymore, as compared to how in probably 10 years back you used to run a print ad, and feel and after 1 year we would do a kind of a survey to understand how did that impact our brand. Nobody's got time for that anymore.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. It
Yeah,
has to be,
yeah,
like you correctly pointed out, the third thing that you pointed out was real time, right? The speed has
yeah.
just gone from a month, a week, we'll analyze it in the end of the week to we want to analyze it right now and make changes for the campaign in the next hour or the next day, right? It's no longer, I'm going to put a campaign for 1 month and then 2 months later, let me see if it worked or not, right?
And just piggybacking on your point on data, right? In the past, we saw a lot of data being siloed, right?
Yeah.
Marketing, sales, customer support teams, they often work separate data sets, and leading to very inconsistent messaging and missed opportunities. That has changed. You know, tools, AI tools, that, for example, Salesforce provides Einstein, which gives you a real-time data around, what's happening with connecting all of the, all of your teams together. That is what is making a lot of difference. I also feel that in the past there was only limited personalization that was possible, right? The ABM campaign
Usually
street.
it's the, let me give you the first name and that's it.
Yeah,
Hello,
exactly.
hello, Divyam, and
Yeah,
everything else is generic.
yeah, yeah. It's almost like a lot of times b- teams would actually look at, but what, for example, Mukund is liking on LinkedIn, or maybe that's why he's thinking about that, maybe that's where he's in the buyer's journey, right? That's how personalized ABM is becoming slowly. That's where I'm thinking that it's going, and I'm sure a lot of ABM marketers right now are also thinking in that direction.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about how do you see, let's change gears a little bit. How do you see the role of the marketing person changing? I know you've done, literally a 90-degree career shift. You
Yeah.
used to be a print ad guy. Then you became a digital guy, and now you're pretty much what a lot of people would call a modern marketer who has depth in one area and the ability to be able to span multiple areas, right? You've done ABM, you've done reporting, you've done analytics, you've done print, you've done a lot of different things. If someone were to come to you and say, Divyam, 5 years from now, the VP of marketing, the director of marketing, the manager of marketing, what are they going to do differently, either because of AI or because of the real-time nature of business or because of data? How would that role change? How is your role, you think, going to change the next 5 years?
Um, you know, um, there's obviously a lot of excitement around AI, a lot of fear around AI, a lot of colleagues that I talk to, we feel that a lot of things that we are doing right now might be automated because of AI. I do feel there's a lot of opportunity when it comes to AI. If in Hinduism, we have certain gods that have multiple hands, or that's how they're shown. Now,
Correct.
obviously, nobody has multiple hands, but it's the multiple tools that give you capabilities to do multiple things, and that's where I think AI comes into play. It gives you new role, it gives you new capabilities so that you can do more things. Um, in a lesser amount of time and more efficiently. When you ask me the role of ABM marketer or a B2B marketer in the future, I would like to answer that into two ways. It depends on what kind of organization you're in. Um, a smaller organization, a mid-size, and a bigger organization, everybody will have different implications to what's happening in technology right now,
Yeah.
or in the implications to the AI marketer, air quotes. Now, I feel your role would be defined based on where you are in the overall organization, but I think the biggest change that would impact everybody is, first of all, the data-driven decision making, which, even though I feel that a lot of marketers are data driven, but I still know a lot of marketers that do not look at data very actively, right? I think the whole idea around predictive analytics is going to change the game. It's already changing the game. And that's where I think, you have to be very agile with your marketing strategy because of that data driven decision making. The number two point I feel that would help, that is going to change a lot, is dynamic personalization, which is already happening, but
Mm,
not at
yeah.
scale,
Yeah.
right? Imagine you have 500 customers and you have 500, people working under those. That's 25K kind of people. Imagine personalizing your campaign, your engagement with them for 25,000 of them,
Correct. Correct.
based on what we see in their social profile, based on how we've interacted with them in the past, um, how our communication has been with them, or their um, you know on how they feel about our brand. All of that factor into a personalization messaging, a personalized campaign is what I see that a AI marketer would be able to do more efficiently, right? Um,
Yeah. I agree.
right? And then the third point around here is around predictive insights, right? That is going to help us create campaigns, and will also help us stay proactive. I mean, I've seen so many examples right now, and especially on, you and I spend a lot of time on X. Whenever there's something that happens, there are certain brands take advantage of that particular
Right.
thing,
Exactly.
right? And
Like the
it's
Oreo
fun.
cookies and lights
Yeah.
went out. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun, right? It's so much fun to see it, but some marketer is thinking about it and it blows my mind how witty some of these campaigns are, right? So all of these are, is going to be also, is going to change. Predictive insights are going to change because, for example, right now, if I don't have the technology, I do not know what would be the potential impact of something that I say, or if I do a campaign of this sorts in the future, I'll know the impact that if I do this, this might be the result of that, and that would help. That would, make me. That would be a game changer, I feel,
Right.
right? And then, even though the word talks about omni-channel coordination, I don't think we're doing it enough. I think edge computing is also that at scale is going to change a lot. I mean, right now only bigger companies are able to do so, but when the technology becomes cheaper, I think the omni-channel coordination is only going to increase, right? And that
For a
is how.
B2B, walk me through for a B2B company, what does omni-channel in some senses mean? Does it mean LinkedIn is a channel, email is a channel, and let's say, for example, your blog is a channel, so you're going to coordinate campaigns across all of them? Is that what you mean?
It's an interesting question because any brand, look at it from a perspective, from a global brand perspective, right? Um, for me, B2B omni-channel experience is that wherever I am in the world, this global brand is providing me the same experience wherever I am. If I go to an event sponsored by, say, XYZ brand, that's what I expect. For example, if you go in
Right.
a airline like KLM, right? You expect some kind of experience, right? When you go to their lounge, you expect some kind of experience, right? And you would
They've
not.
set their brand to make you want to expect that. right? You know,
Exactly.
for example, if you go to Spirit, you're going to get no frills. You know that if you go to Alaska Airlines, they're going to give you a cookie. You know, if you go to Delta Airlines, they're going to give you a pretzel or whatever the case is, or peanuts in Southwest.
Exactly, right? And AI is also going to help us adapt messaging across multiple channels, because not one messaging cannot work through all the channels, right? So that's where I think that coordination is going to become easier. Imagine, a brand, I don't want to name any brand, say Nike, is going through its own trouble right now, but imagine a brand like Nike who is present in 20, 200 countries, for example, right?
Yeah,
um, Imagine how difficult it is for them to create a brand that is cohesive across all of the geographies. That's where AI is going to also help us, is helping us also all coordinate all of that, through the messaging to the dealers, the messaging to the customers, the messaging on an event. All of that is going to come together, is already coming together, and that's where I think that the new AI marketer is taking on a larger role in marketing, or we're calling it the AI marketer. I've seen that myself. A lot of things that we used to take hours on, now we are just automating it. For example, one of my team, is trying to automate a lot of questions that we get around adoption of a new product. Right now, there's a person who helps with looking at automating in a way that, we just have a chatbot, and
yeah, yeah.
it just saves a lot of time.
That's fascinating. You know, the interesting part is I had a discussion yesterday with the CMO, VP of marketing at a scale-up company, right? They've raised Series B, Series C, now trying to scale up. And he was talking about something very interesting, which I thought was unique in the sense that the a scale-up is trying to grow very quickly, right? That's a scale-up. From startup, now they're going to scale up. Scale-up is trying to grow very quickly. So we know that. All right. If you look at their marketing, what he was telling me was everything that worked until Series A does not work from Series B to Series C and so on. And he says everything that works in a bigger company doesn't seem to work. He
Yeah,
says, yeah, at the end of the day, you would say, yeah, let's do a Facebook campaign, let's do a LinkedIn campaign, let's do that. But the devil is in the details because you could say this could be a campaign, but the journey changes. The way the customers evaluate your product starts to change. And also the kind of customer, the type of customer becomes different, right? In the scale up stage, you're going from the early adopters at the early end of the left side of the curve to the
yeah,
middle end, which is the majority adopters, right? And the way the lens that they use to look at this is completely different, right?
yeah,
They want proven technologies, very high ROI, all of the usual stuff, right? So what he was telling me was the interesting part is what works in this stage doesn't work in that stage, right? I'm wondering whether that's the same even for, companies at the later stage, but even what seems to work for you will not probably work for a competitor. But all we seem to be doing now is saying, let's take best practices. Well, it's not, you could try it. It's not probably going to work. So what does best practices mean? It just becomes more of a personalization game at the end of the day, right?
absolutely. I mean, stable stakes, I feel, after a point, because you've tried everything, and you've tried all the best practices available. You've tried all the tactics. I think a lot of companies are still not able to personalize a lot of their message. I mean, I still get messages on my email which I feel like, why are you doing this to me, right? So, and
And we
I'm not,
still get ads at every place that are totally irrelevant.
yeah,
Totally irrelevant.
and even personalization, pe people who are doing personalization are also doing it wrong. For example, I do get a lot of in-mails on LinkedIn. Um, they just assume that I'm in this role and they just send me and they waste their marketing dollars doing that. So it's kind of surprising that, it's still happening. But I think, there's still a lot of legs, a lot of, things to be done so that you can actually do it right.
Let me ask you a different question. You've moved and worked in three different places. You worked in India, you worked in Singapore, you're working in Canada, you've marketed to different geographies. Is there also a difference in terms of location when it comes to the same company? So, take a big company. The company has presence across the world in multiple locations, but the marketing tends to be very regional, local, whatever you want to call it, by theater, by geography, right? How does that change?
Hmm.
Do you have systems and processes that work? Here is a system, now you use the template everywhere, or is it more, here are things that work, now everybody's going to share as much as they can, and then you take it and you run from here?
Well, it's an interesting question because I was just recently talking to a team in Asia, and it was a very different approach that they are using for things. So to answer your question, the basics remain the same, but the channels change. Something like a LinkedIn, for example, would work in a Netherlands. Netherlands is really, I mean, people in Netherlands are really using LinkedIn like
Yeah.
really well. But if you go to, say, Mauritius, which is not a big market, but I was surprised that Facebook is a bigger channel for them as compared to LinkedIn for even B2B. So um, I was kind of surprised about that. Then there are certain markets that would have more focus around events,
Mm.
as compared to, an emailer, for example,
Yeah,
right?
some countries are just a lot more, let's meet in person. We used to do this when we were in India. India is a
Yeah,
very much, first thing they say is, let's have a meeting.
exactly.
Yeah, they don't like the Zoom thing. They don't like any of that.
I mean, the relationship that you make over a tea or a chai is not as compared to what you do on a Zoom call, right? So, we, on that note, we
Yeah.
probably need to meet for a cup of coffee.
I'm going to come up to Vancouver because I
Yeah,
love coming to Surrey for
of
food.
course. Yeah, of
I
course.
come
Yeah,
often, well,
yeah,
once in 3 months. I have a couple of friends also, some of them
yeah,
that live there.
mm,
As I told you, I worked
yeah,
in Vancouver for 4 years, right? So I
yeah,
used to live there in
yeah.
Vancouver, and downtown Vancouver is one of the most vibrant places I've
Oh,
been.
yeah,
I'm glad you've been there for the last 5 years.
yeah.
Vancouver is just a beautiful, very nice place. I absolutely love it. And the fact is, you do get really, this may be a cliche, but you do really get in Vancouver, in British Columbia, you do get a very diverse set of people.
Yeah.
You have a lot of people from Asia, you have a lot of people from Middle East, you have a lot of people from India, obviously, but you have a lot of Canadians that are local. It's a very good mix. You get a lot of different perspectives. My team was about 800, 900 people. I had people from at least 46 different countries.
Wow.
I had a lot of people from Brazil, obviously lots of Iranians there as well, from Persia. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is a very interesting place.
And I also feel that it's not just that you meet people from tech, there are people from a lot of creative backgrounds,
Yeah,
because the
yeah,
whole vibe, even the vibe over here is very creative, very open. If you go south of the border to Seattle, people are just very tech oriented, which
yeah,
is a
I
very
agree.
different. Yeah.
Agreed 100%.
Yeah.
I agree with you
Yeah.
100%. I
Yeah.
think the interesting part that I see, Canada, when I lived there and I worked there versus in the US in Seattle. I mean, I worked at Amazon and then I went to work I used to have a team in Amazon Canada as well.
Hmm.
They are they tend to value a few things very, very differently. In the US, even the people that I worked with over here, it was very much, I'm here to do the work, I'm going to keep moving up, I'm going to keep doing these set of things. Whereas in Canada, it was like, okay, I've got to get a whole perspective on things I want to do. And this is one of the things I'm going to do. I'm not going to do only focus
Hmm.
on the work portion of it. Right? There's a good balance that they like. By the way, Seattle is apparently not apparently. I worked in both places. I worked in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area for 15 years, and Seattle for 10 now.
Hmm.
Seattle is slower than San Francisco. And
Slower?
Vancouver, oh, way
Yeah.
slower, right? A lot more
Hmm.
relaxed.
Hmm.
There's no, it's not as tense in
Hmm.
Seattle. And then
Hmm.
you go to Vancouver, it's even less tense,
Yeah.
right? So it
Yeah.
becomes, and some ways of saying it, maybe, there's people in San Francisco who just want to quote change the world, but they end up doing a lot of stuff that is useless, and maybe a small portion of it changes the world, but they end up doing a lot of stuff to get there.
Yeah, I mean, unless you do, you would not know what can really change things, and that's why it's called Silicon Valley, right? I think Seattle, a lot of people, not a lot of entrepreneurs probably in Seattle as compared to San Francisco, obviously. There are a lot more people who are employed by the big tech. And Vancouver, I see a lot of small startups doing a lot of good things around, not just tech, just also the environment around, different kind of technologies, but a lot of creative folks as well. I feel
Yeah.
that, Canada is more Europe than American. I would just say that. People are relaxed. They want to enjoy their time, nature, as compared to US, which is more, um, make more products, make more things, technology, startup and all of that. It's a very different kind of vibe here.
Awesome. It was terrific talking to you, Divyam. This was a great discussion. I'm definitely going to take you up on coming to Vancouver. I've got a few other friends I've got to meet
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, yeah,
This was a long, good, fun conversation. Keep in
yeah,
touch. We'll have you
yeah.
maybe on the podcast again sometime soon.
Thank you.
Maybe in a year or so, or maybe even next quarter, we'll just catch up and talk a little bit more. Next time, maybe we'll go into a little bit more of the details of personalization because that's an interesting topic as well,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah,
Personalization
definitely.
overall, and it's a vast topic. Covers so many different topics. Thank you, Divyam. Good having you, man.
Thank you. Thank you.